If you've ever loved someone so deeply that losing them felt like losing a part of yourself, then Nakam Ishq will pierce your heart. Before you read this unforgettable story of love, regret, and the ache of what could have been, make sure to subscribe for more powerful emotional stories that stay with you long after the last word. Love is strange in the way it comes into our lives, unexpected, uninvited, and often at the wrong time, and that is exactly how Adil first saw Raina on a rainy September evening when he rushed into a bookshop looking for shelter, not knowing that the moment his eyes met hers would become the memory that would both build and break him in the years to come. Raina stood there with a book pressed to her chest, raindrops glimmering like tiny crystals in her hair, and Adil, who had always relied on logic more than emotion, felt his carefully controlled world shift as if someone had gently turned his heart toward a direction he had never meant to travel. Their first conversation was simple, just two strangers joking about the unpredictable weather, but it held enough warmth to soften even the coldest loneliness inside him. Days turned into weeks, and Adil found himself returning to that same bookshop, pretending he needed a new novel or a cup of tea, but in truth he only needed the soft smile Raina gave him each time she saw him. She was everything he was not: spontaneous, expressive, unafraid of embracing the messiness of life, while he remained cautious, composed, and painfully aware of how fragile his emotions could be if he ever let them loose. But love, even the kind that hides behind everyday conversations, has a way of revealing itself, and soon their connection grew into long walks, late-night calls, shared secrets, and gentle silences that spoke more than words ever could. Yet the beauty of their growing bond hid a shadow that neither of them dared to acknowledge. Raina was engaged to someone her family chose, a man she did not love but felt obligated to marry because she believed breaking her parents' wishes would break their hearts. Adil tried to stay silent, to bury the storm of feelings inside him, to pretend that her laughter didn't make his world brighter, but the truth slipped out on a quiet evening when she cried over the life she didn't want. He held her hands, trembling, and said her name as if it was the only word he had ever truly spoken, and she looked at him with tears in her eyes, whispering that she wished things were different, that she wished she had the courage to choose her own destiny. Their confession hung in the air like a fragile flame, warm enough to ignite hope but delicate enough to be extinguished by reality. They loved each other, but love is not always enough, especially when tangled in duty, expectations, and the complicated threads of family honor. Adil tried to fight for her, telling her they could run away, start fresh, choose each other instead of the life others had written for them, but Raina, with all her bravery in every other part of life, found herself powerless in this one. She feared disappointing the people who had raised her, the mother who prayed for her happiness, the father who trusted her to follow the path they believed was right. The night before her wedding, Adil stood outside her house, staring at the glowing windows, hoping, pleading inside his heart, that she would step out, look at him, and say she was ready to choose love instead of fear. But the door never opened. The light eventually dimmed, and the only sound filling the night was the quiet shattering of Adil's hopes. He left without saying goodbye, carrying with him a heartbreak so deep it felt like a wound carved into his very soul. Raina married the man she didn't love, and for months afterward, Adil wandered through life like a ghost, unable to forget the way she once whispered his name as if it belonged to her. Years passed. Life moved forward. Adil built a career, surrounded himself with responsibilities, routines, and distractions, but some memories refused to fade no matter how many layers of time are placed on top of them. One day, fate brought them face to face again at a charity event. Raina stood across the room, still beautiful, still carrying that soft spark in her eyes, but this time there was a quiet sadness behind her smile, a heaviness that told a story he didn't need to hear aloud. They spoke like old friends, though both knew they were much more than that, and in their conversation she revealed what he had always suspected: she was living a life that had nothing to do with her happiness, only her duties. She told him she often wondered what their life might have been like if she had chosen courage that night instead of fear. Adil listened, his heart twisting, but he did not ask her to leave her life again. He had learned the painful truth that love cannot survive if it must fight alone. As they parted, she pressed a trembling hand to his chest and whispered, "You were my only real love," and he replied with a gentle smile, "And you were my unfinished prayer." Neither expected a future together. Not anymore, but in that moment, under the weight of everything they had lost, they found a bittersweet peace. Love does not always end with togetherness, sometimes it ends with acceptance. And so their story, their Nakam Ishq, remained a reminder of a love that was real but never meant to be, a love that lived not in moments shared but in the silent spaces of the heart. If this story touched your heart, don't stop here. Follow, share, and subscribe for more emotional, powerful stories that keep you hooked from the first word to the last. Your support helps bring more stories like Nakam Ishq to life.